Hey everyone, my name is Matthew Richardson, and this week I decided to go with another Dr. Seuss book, and this one is called The Butter Battle Book. So I thought since we were studying the Lorax, that another Dr. Seuss controversial book would work wonderful. So this book, like most Dr. Seuss books, would be a picture book. But the story in this book, as you can tell, there's a grandpa and a grandson are going out and they're discussing the issues that are facing these different societies. There's the Zooks and there's the Ukes, sorry. And the difference that they have is the way that they eat their butter. One eats their butter side up, one eats their butter side down. The Ukes eat their butter side up, and the Zooks eat their butter side down. This book, well, it might be a little bit hard for some children because it's very much a tongue twister. It repeats the Butter Battle book through the whole thing. Ukes, Zooks, a lot of rhyming. But it gives a sense of a very deep message, just like the Lorax does. And the Butter Battle book gives a message of how we need to get along and not let those simple things get in the way of how we're dealing with one another and those relationships that we have with one another. Going here, we can see that this is the grandfather over again, and he's still telling the grandson a story, and talking about how he kept the Zooks away, and he protected the Ukes from the Zooks, until one of the very brave ones stood up to him and started to defy them. And as it goes, and this eventually causes the grandpa to feel like he's a failure, and he goes to the leader, and it just causes this gigantic battle to unfold about the differences between the Ukes and the Zooks. And each time they just constantly try to one-up each other. They're constantly going back and forth to constantly one-up one another. And this we see a lot of times with children. We try to one-up each other, and especially with adults. We see that we're constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses, and we're trying to be better and more important than one another. And really this can apply not only to children, but it can apply to adults as well. And as you can see, the grandfather brought that dog from the first image, and he's met with this elephant army. Elephant gun is going to annihilate him. So the grandfather has this Kickapoo kid, while the Zooks have an 8-nozzled elephant-toted Boom Blitz, which would just absolutely destroy them. And so he goes back and he's meted with this marching band, and they celebrate him, and he embraces it, even though he came back as a failure. And for me, what that tells me is that they're so wound up in who they are and what they're doing that they don't understand that what they're doing can be part of a bigger picture. And oftentimes we lose sight of what is the bigger picture and what can be done, and we accept only those little bits and those little pieces. So they end up developing the same weapon and getting in trouble. And then finally, it ends up towards the very end where the grandfather has the grandson, and he has this ultimate weapon. And this ultimate weapon is called a Big Boy Boomeroo, and it would completely obliterate the enemy. But as you can see up in this far corner up here, the enemy has a Big Boy Boomeroo as well. And so it takes it all the way to the end, to the precipice of this fight, that they both might drop this Big Boy Boomeroo on one another to get them to a stalemate. And that's how the book ends. The book ends with you not knowing exactly how the war ends. It leaves you in suspense, because that's really how a lot of life is. It leaves you in suspense of how wars and how fights and things will go. And so that's why I think this book, not only while it's controversial, can help give us a lot of life lessons for adults and for children to help us improve how we see the world, how we can improve on the world. And with the Butter Battle book, we need to look past those little differences. Does it really matter how somebody eats their bread, if it's butter side up or butter side down? Not really. But when you look at adults, we oftentimes make those differences about skin color or religion or where they come from. Even if it's a different county in the same state, we look at them as if they're somebody completely different. And the message of Butter Battle book is that we're not different. And ultimately, those little differences that we can make such extreme things out of can ultimately destroy us. And so that's how I would use the book and try to get people to learn from it and learn from the message of that book. Thank you.